He was among the first computer hackers, and by the second half of the 1990s, he had become the most notorious hacker in the United States. After a third prison term, the criminal became a law-abiding citizen, focusing on counseling and writing. He lived a colorful but short life and died at 59 of cancer. So who is he? Let's get acquainted. Kevin David Mitnick was born on August 6, 1963, to a Jewish family in Los Angeles, a Jewish family with a half-brother and sister. In the latter part of the decade, his parents divorced and his mother had to work long hours. I had to work hard and move around a lot. In his autobiography, Kevin wrote that he was a loner and entertained himself by learning magic and magic tricks. Growing up in the era of technological progress, the boy was fascinated by it, and he and his peers dabbled in freaking tricks. For example, he would reroute signals from street payphones to home phones, making free calls, long-distance calls, and running the owner's info, even if the numbers weren't registered. Eventually, infuriated phone company officials of the phone company cut the wire to his apartment, but Kevin found a way out. He replaced the numbers on the front door and signed a new service contract. Another prank of the teenager was free transportation on buses. 12 years old, ostensibly for a school project, the boy questioned the driver about how he was making the puncture pattern on the tickets. After that, he started using old receipts found in the trash and altered them with a hole punch. Mitnick always emphasized that his goal was never for financial gain or harm. Kevin was all about adventure, adrenaline, and a little humor. As Kevin got older, he went from being a phone guy to a computer computer criminal because he got bored with making phone calls. In high school, the young man learned the manuals and hacked into the school's network, but not to fix his grades. He was interested in the process. With skills like those, Mitnick's only option after high school was the Computer Learning Center in Los Angeles. Within a few months, Kevin hacked into the center's database and was even able to have an opportunity to touch up his grades. But either he didn't want to or he didn't have the time. The school authorities picked up on the unusual activity and figured out Mitnick. They offered him two options, either to get out or to improve the security of the systems and get a high grade for it. To do so, the hacker chose the second. He ended up graduating with honors. But while he was a good student, Mitnick was definitely not an upstanding American. In 1981, he hacked into the databases of the Pacific Bell Corporation Bell. He gained access to security keys, access codes, and even employee records. However, the hacker was primarily interested in textbooks and manuals on advanced communications technology. In this case, a new friend, Louis DePayne, nicknamed Roscoe, assisted him. Their group of four was called Roscoe and his boys. The other two members were Susan Sander, the ringleader's girlfriend, and Steve Rhodes. Susan was passionately in love with Roscoe and his constant companion. Kevin Mitnick was barely noticed, and Kevin too, to say hello to her when she saw him. They tolerated each other only because of Roscoe. But despite their mutual dislike, they both shared the same passion, telephones and telephone networks, wrote in his book on Mitnick. In his book about Mitnick, the love affair between Roscoe and Susan would be the reason for Mitnick's first prison sentence. After a year of relationship in 1981, the feelings of Roscoe's feelings for the girl wane, and he has a torrid affair on the side. The offended girl quits the group and rats out the other three members of the group. Mitnick couldn't get away with hacking into the Pacific Bell, got 3 months of real time and a year's probation. Once released, he continued to develop his telephone and computer hacking skills, skillfully covering his tracks. On the surface, he gave the impression of an upstanding American. He went to Pierce College in Los Angeles, LA and UCLA, and worked as a secretary in the Jewish community. In the latter half of the 1980s, Kevin had another setback when his buddy gave another testimony against him during an investigation. That's when Mitnick was finally accused of defrauding the DEC and then went on the run for 2.5 years. While on the run, the hacker used cell phone clones, wiretapping, stealing computer passwords, hacking into email accounts. At trial, the offender was sentenced to treatment for computer addiction. To the credit of his lawyer, sent to jail for a year, and then released on parole. for the next 3 years. The conman was banned from using a cell phone and a computer, which didn't stop him. He blocked the probation officer's cell phone number and dug into the judge's credit history. The judge's credit history was deleted, and no mention of his case was made on police computers. Nevertheless, the criminal gave up serious fraud for a couple of years. The hacker got a girlfriend, lost weight, and started counseling. He was knocked out of his rut when his brother died in 1992. Soon, the FBI arrived at Kevin's apartment, searching for Kevin's apartment and suspecting a wiretap, but he was dropped off the radar. That's when Mitnick was put on the federal and dubbed the most notorious of the burglars, and his picture were all over the flyers. So the LA native went back to hiding out under false names and fake IDs while still managing to work as a hospital technician. While hiding from the investigation, Mitnick went back to where he started. 1993. In 1993, he gained access to phone systems in California, which allowed him to wiretap FBI agents in pursuit of him and interfere with the surveillance. One day, Kevin realized the agents were approaching his house. So he fled his apartment, and when bureau agents arrived on the scene, "I found a box of donuts left for them." Mitnick admitted that he was most proud of the invasion of Motorola, which he accomplished while on the run. He once again resorted to social engineering, convincing a company manager to tell a coworker to send Mitnick encryption codes from an internal system. So, the hacker gained permanent remote access to the network and then hacked into cell phone development servers. Mitnick also thought he could use the information he got from Motorola to change the phone's identifying information and make it harder for US authorities to track his whereabouts. For example, every time the phone is turned on, it interacts with the operator. "I wanted to turn it on and off," he explained. But Kevin was so busy hacking that he didn't pursue the idea, and the files from the Motorola remained trophies. After that, Mitnick needed specialized cell phone hacking software, but not being an experienced programmer, he looked for someone to steal the code from. On Christmas Day before 1994, he hacked into an American computer security specialist's computer, computer security specialist Tsutomu Shimomura. He noticed an unauthorized login and began looking for the culprit. Shimomura's software was found in a rarely used account for The Well, an online service based in California. It turned out that whoever had hacked into his computer was also using The Well is a staging ground to raid corporate computers, Motorola, Apple, Qualcomm, and dozens of other computer systems. It took Shimomura a week and a half to analyze the phone network, recognize the hacker's identity, and direct the FBI to an apartment complex in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's where Mitnick was caught. During this period, the perpetrator hacked into a cell phone manufacturer and a cell phone carrier, and in 1994 he downloaded hundreds of classified files from the home PC of Tsutomu, computer security specialist in the United States, Tsutomu Shimomura. From that point on, catching the hacker became Shimomura's matter of honor. How did it end? Mitnick was charged with several hacking incidents, including stealing credit card data. Mitnick was charged with illegally accessing phone networks and computer fraud. U.S. authorities claim the damage from the hacks exceeded $300 million, but have been unable to prove that Mitnick used the stolen files for financial gain. Kevin himself has repeatedly said that he was only hacking for fun and not for the money. Nevertheless, he took a plea bargain and pleaded guilty to causing between $5 and $10 million in losses to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. The court sentenced Mitnick to 5 years in prison and 3 years of probation upon release. 8.5 months, he was in solitary confinement. He was not allowed to make phone calls while in custody. The prosecutor convinced the judge that Kevin could get a payphone. He could hack into the North American Aerospace Defense Command and launch an intercontinental ballistic missile, launch a nuclear attack. At the time of Mitnick's arrest, the FBI and other agencies were still learning to combat cybercrime and the methods used by hackers. Mitnick's case helped set a precedent for future investigations of hacking and set a legal framework to combat it. What happened to him after serving time? After some time, Kevin changed dramatically. He moved to Las Vegas, founded Mitnick Security Consulting, and co-owned No B4. The former hacker consulted on computer system security and hacking defense, taught social engineering, and participated in public speaking engagements for private companies and government agencies. Occasionally cooperated with police, such as in the capture of telephone terrorists. In hindsight, I wouldn't have acted as I did. Now, I'm much smarter and wiser. I caused a lot of network and system a lot of undeserved headaches, Mitnick said. He explained that at the time, the cybersecurity of various systems had to be learned through hacks because there were no legitimate opportunities to learn, and it simply wasn't available. In an interview that in January 2022, Mitnick advised young people not to make the same mistake he did. Don't follow in my footsteps. I went down the wrong way on a hard road. The world has changed today. As we can see, sometimes the bad guys aren't as bad as they may seem at first glance, and even the most legendary hacker can come out on the white side.